Hello everyone, I hope they are having a wonderful day. Baldur's Gate 3's patch 8 just dropped, and I'm going to be covering all the patch notes and updates that have come with it, so grab yourself a drink and some popcorn. We got ourselves a great video here, as there was a large amount of changes that came in the final patch. Definitely bittersweet to see this game have its final patch, but they brought a lot of great updates here that fixed a lot of things that have been bugged since the start. Now, they also have released an animated short. I'd highly recommend watching it. They're always hilarious, these little shorts that they make. There's also Steam trading cards. There's some updates here. So the big things here are obviously crossplay with mods, and also the ability to have the 12 new subclasses and this amazing photo mode, which you're just looking at here. I'm not going to get too far into this. I've already done videos talking about photo mode. I want to go over the updates to the game itself. So there's a description on how to play crossplay on this update here, which I'll link in the description as well. They also have some cool photos. I guess we'll just start off here with. So there's the spectator boss fight that you can get early in the game. There's some gorgeous shots with photo mode, and I'm loving the things that I've seen so far from the photo mode. There's some very cool stuff. I've been playing around with it myself too. It's been a blast. But to get into the big updates here, so the new subclass is obviously being a big one. If you have mods installed, I did do a video earlier today talking about if you're having issues with having the subclass appear, or really any issues with the game itself. I do have some guides on how to help out with that. It was a video I posted earlier today. But the big thing here is they got some new updates for the modding toolkit. I want to start off with this because this is actually huge. I was talking to a few different mod creators for Baldur's Gate 3. They're adding some more stuff in. So they're adding an update to the mod toolkit, which allows mod authors will now be able to explore partial level editing. This is huge because there's actually some crazy workarounds here. They can add in some new areas to the game, although not really supposed to, but they still allow it because if you use the toolkit to make it, it's all good with them. Whether you fancy creating your own NPC, dropping a metric ton of carrots across every existing level just for the sake of it, pledging your undying love to Shadowheart by turning all wolves into bunny rabbits, or moving the House of Hope, you'll now be able to use the toolkit to add or override certain template types in existing levels. And also, they've been able to override this and do things a little bit differently, which I'll just briefly speak on right now. This was a comment left by Pixelblades, who has created the Tactician Enhanced mod and the adjustable party size limit mod. So they actually announced they're going to be adding a lot of stuff privately to this mod authors last year, and ever since the patch 8 stress test, we've been having a blast with it. They ended up giving us more than they initially promised, and not only do the new features allow for new types of mods that weren't possible before, but even many of the quality of life changes they implemented are game-changing. Additions being the translated string key editor, which made implementing text into a mod much easier, taking a quarter of the time. There's months of work to go before they release their update to the Tactician Enhanced, but Pixelblades is extremely excited for what mod authors are going to be able to create. One more thing, some of the features are strictly off limits, such as the ability to add entirely new levels or new scenery route templates. A lot of the things a toolkit can't explicitly do can be done with workarounds, which is actually crazy. If you configure an item route template correctly, you can effectively create new placeable scenery. While we don't have the ability to directly edit dialogue or templates in this toolkit, authors like Milo have shown that it can still be done manually. Since we can place NPCs in the world now, I expect you'll start seeing the very occasional mod that adds NPCs with new dialogues. Larian has made it clear that they're fine with us adding things that aren't possible with the toolkit manually, so long as we don't use the unlock toolkit to do so, since that will cause issues. I plan on taking advantage of these myself with the Tactician Enhanced update I mentioned. I believe we're going to see the best mods we've ever seen for Baldur's Gate 3 in a few months, and I'm extremely excited. So am I. Pixelblades, that was amazing to see. So thank you for that. This is huge news. I have previously covered some mods where... So this here is a mod from the in-game mod manager. It's actually crazy, with a bunch of different combat and different things you can go about and do. So this one's already in the mod manager, and I think we'll see potentially some more mods similar to this as time goes on. Very interested to see what all comes from this, because yeah, this is just incredible. So yeah, just a little side note there, but that's just something to do with the toolkit. Very exciting times, guys. Very exciting. Some modding guidelines update. Unfortunately, race mods cannot make their way to console due to crashing, and that's just a constraint of consoles itself. Not that Larian did want to do that, it's just consoles do have some more intricacies when it comes to different things like that. They're also working closely with mod authors while ImpUI is not currently being maintained to keep things running smoothly and support the creative passions of those in the modding community. We've introduced minor changes to how functionalities are handled in the toolkit. Now mod authors will be able to make changes directly to mods that will rely on UI tweaks using character creation. So now supported natively in the toolkit, action resources, Rachel spells that level up, raise passives, UI for head passive equipment, class, subclass, and origin selection, feed passives, and radial customization and description. Huge thank you to DJMR, who created ImpUI, and Kate, who has made a lot of the better UI mods, like Better Hotbar 2. They've also gotten added into the official Baldur's Gate 3 credits, which I think is amazing. Shout out to Larian for doing that, because both of them have put countless hours into making the modding community a better place here. So amazing. Mods in patch 8, they're slowly being updated. Please be respectful to mod authors as that happens. But here's the patch notes, the big meat and potatoes here. We got a lot of really great things. So fixing some small issues like Shadowheart's penchant for a hair dye while skinny dipping, which would cause her hair to change color during her romance scenes. Series will stop getting involved in combats with Minthara from across the region, and we've resolved an issue with moving platforms in the Gauntlet of Shar, which has accidentally proven harder to survive than, well, the Gauntlet of Shar. This one being a huge one. What was happening is if you played honor mode, if everyone dies, your run is over. What was happening is there's an elevator in the Gauntlet of Shar that was just dropping people right through and killing your entire party, which would effectively end your honor mode run, which is just terrible. My workaround I was telling people to do is take 3 people down, bring 1 back up, and bring the rest of the team down. So if you lose people, it's only half of your party. But the big things here, obviously, photo mode, 12 new subclasses, crossplay, and Xbox Series S now gets split screen. Mind-blowing that they can do that. If you are unaware, whenever you do split screen, it has to render the game twice, and this Xbox Series S is not that much of a powerhouse, I'll be honest with y'all. However, into the fun updates. So gameplay. Fixed containers inside inventories would not scatter their equipment when destroyed, which is huge, because if there was a item that you get from, like, you know, the story, it could disappear permanently, making you locked out of it. Fixed issues where picking up items from the ground in multiplayer could block movement via the controller stick. Fixed the wild-shaped panther's prowl, which now allows you to properly prowl as a panther. When you succeed a perception check, the spotted item will now ping on the minimap and be listed in the combat log, which is actually a huge quality of life change. Sometimes you get a perception check and can't find where the item itself is. Fix an issue where the special abilities of some of your allies were improperly provided in the end of the dialogue with them at High Hall. Scrolls and potions inside unlocked containers when your party inventory can now be used while rolling in dialogues, which is nice, small little quality of life change. Neutral and friendly NPCs will no longer become hostile when outside of combat. They walk into surfaces created during combat that triggers passive. So like electricity surfaces or from Thunderbolt Strike, take it easy, lads. Which is nice because, yeah, if you accidentally dropped acid on the ground and someone walked into it, they become mad at you. It's not really your fault if you were slinging spells. Another point on this, this is important because there's a lot of mods now that'll group all your scrolls and stuff together. So this actually helps out with anything related to that. So little thing there. Fix free cap being reset when any condition is applied. This was actually a big one in the game. So what was happening was, let's say you had your free cap, which is the Illithid ability here. So you could put the free cast down onto your bar there. If you use free cast, you get a free level 6 spell. What you could do is you could also this is funny, grab your underwear and throw it on there, and then remove and add your underwear, which is somehow would refresh your free cast. This made some runs in the game very easy because you could just cheese your way to getting a bunch of spell slots. No longer will you be able to do that. So yeah, that's just something they changed. So I think that's a expected change to have happen, because being able to free cast level 6 spells endlessly obviously makes the game a lot easier. Fixed a character getting stuck via pathfinding via ladder that's already been used by another companion. So nice. This happened to me in Act 1 in the Underdark often. Fix a bug in the moving platform to Gauntlet of Shar, which would let you plummet to your death, which is actually awful. Fix the same self-trial, which now give a proper challenge to those that are using modded classes. I think that's a cool change, that you take into consideration mods while making some of these changes. Fix an error when joining a game via friend invite on Xbox. Fix the ward magic being active before extra attack, forcing the player to use a bonus action before getting access to their other attacks. As someone that loves the Eldritch Knight, and the Eldritch Knight now getting a big buff with Booming Blade, this is nice to see. Eldritch Knights now properly use free extra attacks before their water magic attack, kind of similar to there. Fix Valiant damage not triggering properly. For those that don't know what Valiant damage is, it's from the College of Valor Bard, which can give a combat inspiration, adding a 1d6 up to a 1d10 to attack damage. And previously it was not always triggering the right way. That's nice, because there's really not much choice of being a Valor Bard when the Sword Bard exists. Now it's kind of a bit better. Fix an issue with Shadow Blade spells in the Knife of the Undermountain King Dagger not granting advantage against an obscured target. This is also a huge change. As someone that really enjoys the Knife of the Undermountain King, one of its primary functions is the Shadow Blade there. You advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets while using this blade. That's huge, because even a little bit of shadow can give you that lightly obscured or full-on shadow, which is what you'd want to use this blade for. So this actually makes it a good blade again, because previously to this, it was just, a normal short sword. Now it's working as intended. So also fix a bug when moving the controller sticks in specific directions wouldn't register any input. Fix Jhannyl's gloves with not triggering the Defy Villainy passive that casts lesser restoration. So whenever you get like a condition applied, those gloves will let you cast free restoration, lesser restoration to remove that condition. Now it'll work properly, make them actually useful. There's actually a lot of items in the game that just have a setting that doesn't, or having something that gives your character that didn't work properly that's now fixed. Updated elemental weapon to allow all damage types at all spell levels and include upcast benefits at level 5 and 6, which is awesome. Elemental weapon is a cool spell, adds elemental weapon damage type. Examining in-world services with the pin tooltip keybind now correctly displays a tooltip. Fixed a bug causing keyboard inputs to block if you spam the level up button and the escape key. Fix a potential blocker causing mouse inputs to get disabled when clicking on an enemy's portrait as they die. I actually had that happen to me before and I had no idea what was happening, so that's nice. Fix a blocker when a follower or summon using the Scrying Eye in the Iron Throne. Fix a blocker when you try to use any item while your character was knocked down. Fix the game freezing when dragging items while trading or bartering, and this happened to me a lot because I was trying to find as many of these free gold exploits, and yeah, now it works properly. Fix a multiplayer issue where the host would get a black screen for 15 seconds when transitioning to a crime dialogue. Fix honor mode issue at High Hall while all party members will die upon reaching the top of the stem if any in the party is being dominated by an enemy, which happens often because they know dominate person there, which would cause a game over. I actually had someone comment and say this gave them a game over in honor mode. I would have been pulling my hair out, freaking out, because that's losing the game at the very end to a glitch is just super unfortunate. Fix the skiff at the morphic pool sometimes in the wrong spot or floating in the air. Fix body type 1 Durgar incorrectly receiving halfling stats instead of dwarf stats. Fix gimbal block getting stuck if his attack triggered a reaction. Fix characters not being able to pick up items if they had an invalid pickup request somehow stored in the save game. Fix a bug causing non-dark urge characters to say dark urge lines. You're not all obligated to be wretched things and with headaches. Yeah, so whenever you select the dark urge, so if you're swapping between characters, they sometimes say a line. Wretched things. So yeah, this is just fixing it so that you no longer would say the dark urge lines. Fix a bug where difficulty in game settings wouldn't save properly and when adjusted after experiencing game over in honor mode. Now some minor combat tweaks. Fix an issue causing neutral NPCs to trigger combat for seemingly no reason. And this kind of goes hand in hand with one of those previous updates where electrified surfaces was cause people to get aggroed. Ceres will now stop getting involved in combat with Minthara from across the region, and Eager Beaver no longer. Fixed a bug causing damage riders to be added multiple times in honor mode, which is kind of funny because honor mode typically removes a lot of the glitchy things that you can do with damage riders that are not typically supposed to be done. So that's nice to see that fix. Fix sneak attack not activating for actions that spawn additional projectiles, like curving shot. So that's nice to see. Again, any fixes for the rogue, they need it. Modding. So big issue or big changes here for modding. Fix an issue causing you to get stuck at a 0% loading screen while attempting to join a multiplayer session that uses mods. I've had lots of comments regarding this. Sometimes you had to switch the host over and that would fix it, but now this is just all fixed. The mod verification window will now trigger regardless of where the request to connect to a multiplayer game is coming from. So this will show all the mods that you have to make sure that they are lined up. Replace third-party mod warning with clear messaging, which is nice because that got a lot of comments in my videos too because it was not very clear with what it meant by third-party mods. Sometimes it was actually mods that were in the in-game mod manager itself. Fix a mod preventing some modded classes and subclasses from leveling up. I've seen that a lot of times. Fix a bug causing the mod verification window to appear empty, preventing you from closing if you get a warning about insufficient storage before it opens. You can now navigate between the left and right columns of the installed tab in the mod manager with a controller, which is nice. Improved character creation functionality for modded games, also nice. And the mod verification window will now appear on PC for console-related mod issues to account for crossplay. Great. Crossplay with mods is actually, just want to make a huge shout out to Larian for making that possible because, you know, I can't even think of a game that has crossplay and mods together. So Baldur's Gate 3, as extensive and complex of a game it is, can pull that off. Yeah, amazing. Performance and options. The Steam Deck's default FSR setting is now FSR 2.2 on quality. FSR is not as good as DLSS. I'm just going to say that. Fix the rule set selector not appearing on the alter custom mode screen while accessing the rule settings via the multiplayer lobby, and improve server performance in the Aventine Forge. Now, I've actually received a lot of reports of people having higher frame rates now after patch 8 has dropped. I honestly have also noticed that. I noticed it on the stress test. I was like, why are my frames so high? Now, I did have to remove a lot of mods, but even prior to this, I have 120 frames right now, and I have it set to 120 frames. Normally, I get around 90 frames, and I have a RTX 4070. So I don't know what it is. I can see, you guys can't see it, but I got 120 frames per second right now, and it's not dropped at all. Even when I go outside and leave like camp, for example, I'm still having very great performance, which is actually kind of crazy to see. So out into the wilderness here, I'm still running at 120 frames per second. You guys can't see, it's just gonna be 60 for y'all, but yeah, it's actually crazy to be able to go around and see the world like this. I'm also using native camera tweaks for this camera angle positioning, but yeah, this is smooth, slippery like butter. Actually crazy to see it work this well. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. Let me know in the comments if you're on PC and you're noticing improved performance, or even on console if there's improved performance there. I haven't noticed anything when I was playing PS5 yesterday, but yeah, getting better performance on PC, always a nice thing, and they didn't even say. Shouts out to Larian again. Amazing. Scripting and flow. With the 12 new subclass arriving in patch 8, we have rechecked some achievements, ensuring that the unarmed or the armed version of Stunning Strike now longer counts as unarmed for the Fists of Fury achievement, and the unarmed variant now does. Monk's Unarmed Strike bonus action now correctly counts towards the Action Surge achievement. Fix an issue where you could tell Astarion that Galdrell was looking for him even if the Gandrel refused to tell you the name of his prey. Fix a save game issue where you wouldn't get the appropriate amount of Umbral Gems for the Gauntlet of Shar. Halson will now show up at your camp at Act 2 as long as you saved him, even if you happen to skip the celebrations at the Tiefling camp after Act 1. That's nice. Minthara now comments on the Emperor's reveal. They actually told us that this was coming soon because, yeah, she normally would just be like, I don't care. Reminded Minthara that knocked out does not mean dead. She'll see more reliably will end up at Moonrise Towers. This is a huge win for everyone. The Night Warden Minthara will now come if you're on a good playthrough. It was very spotty. I've actually had probably like 100 comments over the last year of people having issues with Minthara. I was always trying to help out as much as I can. It seems like it was actually a glitch. So, hey, this is a win. Minthara is one of my favorite characters. Minthara is also the funniest person I know. You can no longer teleport out of Moonrise while controlling Minthara unless you tell her to stay put. Minthara is now willing to talk to you after you tell her to wait in the torture chamber. Minthara no longer gets stuck babysitting Thaniel in Act 2. It's hilarious because she overrides Halson's camp, and you weren't really supposed to get both her and Halson, so they do share some things. Now this fixes it. Fix an issue where you could talk about Art Kala as though he was alive even if he isn't. Your character will no longer think Shadowheart is dead if she isn't when talking to Viconia. It's kind of funny. Characters who were in a relationship with Gale when he sacrificed himself in the endgame to defeat the Netherbrain will now get a tonally appropriate read lovey-dovey letter that was missing. That's sweet. Fixed dialogue preventing Avatar Gale from talking about the orb to Lae'zel after consuming a magic item. I love, by the way, Origin Gale, really fun to play. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a new character to play, because Gale gets a lot of exclusive content, as well as getting Terra at his camp. You should no longer be able to ask Shadowheart about her Shar worship after recruiting her at the Goblin camp if you don't know her faith. Shadowheart's wound flare during the Arabella scene in the Goblin Emerald Grove will now be considered to have triggered when Shadowheart wasn't present in dialogue. Fix various background goals that weren't triggering. Animation added dance animations for some creatures that didn't have it, such as ettercaps, kobolds, and harpies. I think that's kind of funny that they added that. Art fix an issue causing the flaming fist armor to clip and generally freak out a bit. Fix some clipping and textural arrow issues with the barbarian starting armor when worn by body type 1 gnomes. There's actually a lot, and this is another one. Actually, we'll be getting to some more. There's some more down in this list. Fix a cleric starting armor from bouncing around a little bit too much when worn by body type 1 characters. It also fixed some of the ones being a little nipply, so that's nice to see those fixes. UI. Discovered and available non-hostile traders are now shown to the world map regardless how far away you are from them, which is a very nice quality of life change. So yeah, it'll now show properly the merchants that you'll encounter on your travels. Fix button or keyboard shortcut inputs on the UI sometimes not working, and fix reaction tooltips from the Divine Allegiance not showing some values correctly. Fix a bug, so that's the new Crown Paladin. Fix a bug causing the UI to lock up when rapidly switching between keyboard and mouse input and controller inputs. I actually had that happen to me as someone that plays controller and keyboard and mouse. It was weird, but it's now fixed. Fix a bug where opening the main menu on controller wouldn't automatically select the resume option. Fix a bug where you'd have to deselect your current passive when respecing a character before selecting a new one. Now you can just click the new one. That was a weird one. So yeah, if you had like 2 options in your character, so like let's say you're picking an invocation for the warlock, sometimes you'd actually have to unclick one to be able to click the other. Now this lets you freely swap them. Mention that the damage that the corrosive spit does in the condition tooltip. Nice. Update the names of the condition tooltips for the Laphosaurus when the corrosive spray with the corrosive spray spell with leaving showing dissolving and dissolve for clarity. The Tides of Chaos from the Wild Magic Sorcerer. Passive tooltip now correctly states that it only works for ability checks. Updated the Life Drinker tooltip to match functionality. It does not require Pocket of the Blade. Yeah, so previously, if you got to level 12 Warlock, you can get the Life Drinker, which adds your Charisma modifier as necrotic damage. And he used to say adds that as tier packed weapon. Now it just says it adds a tier weapon damage. Perfect. Rephrase the Hexblade's Curse tooltip to prevent the technical attack plus proficiency bonus from appearing in the character creation. The Accolade of Nature passive tooltip now shows up to the character sheet as expected. Fix the controller UI not correctly showing when you're logged into your Larian account, which did cause issues with crossplay. Fix the multiplayer session manager not populating properly. Fix a bug where if a user tried to join your session, you're filling out a user report, canceling requests would close the report. Fix body type sliders, sometimes skipping through a choice on controller. Fix the no save games available message showing up in the background when the game is loading the list of save games. Oddly enough, I've seen that happen on PC too. Updated the credits to include developers who have worked on the game since release, play testers, and moderators, and the Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit testers, and updated the order of the voice actors' credits to prioritize larger roles at the top. I think that's nice. They also added, again, some mod testers, or mod creators, so that's amazing. Fixed a bug causing empty text input panel to pop up and block gameplay. Fixed a % empty passive feature appearing for rogues in character creation. Fixed a one frame glitch where swapping between two party members' inventories will briefly show the first part of a character's inventory. Fix the tooltips for the combat log not consistently appearing in controller even if you have tooltips toggled on. Fix a bug preventing you from pasting special characters in the password form and logging into your Larian account. The filters for the multiplayer lobby now filter properly. Generic icon for passive features missing from their tooltips in the character sheet are now fixed. Fix the visual issues with the white translucent visual effects that appears over the portraits and party line caused by dragging one character's portrait over another. So yeah, if you were to go, it now fixes it properly. Sorry for those sound effects. Fix the character tooltips that appear beside the character portrait on the party line not showing up correctly on a hover. Fix the tooltip bug when trading. When hovering over any equipped items would display a faulty tooltip, but trying a second time would magically fix it. Fix a bug causing the sliders in the gameplay options auto-scroll continuously when the left stick is flicked to the left or right. Oddly enough, I noticed that as well. Fix an issue when causing the game to freeze for a second when switching between two characters in the character sheet open. Fix a bug on controller preventing you from scrolling through the spells in the replace spell UI when leveling up. Fix the footwear slot in the character sheet just deciding to not show up. And fix the Venture 4 text shaking during the character creation when the button is held down on controller. I also noticed in the character creator, it would usually, in the patch test, it would twist a little bit when you were making your character. That's now fixed. I don't think they actually listed it here, so I want to point that out. Added a new spot where the Easter egg song plays. Happy hunting. And for those that are wondering, there's a Reddit post here. So the hidden song Easter egg, I Want to Live with vocals, which is beautiful and gives me actual goosebumps every single time that I hear it. I got goosebumps right now. You guys can't see. So yeah, you actually have to go back to your camp after this astral prism scene. And at the camp, you walk over to view Worm's Crossing here, and the song will play. It's beautiful. Highly recommend you check that out. So yeah, there's another place where this Easter egg song will play. I am excited to see where it is. Restored some of the original music from the scene with Answer before its rework. Cinematics. Shadowheart has agreed to stop repeatedly changing her hair color during some intimate moments. I also noticed it would happen if you went into here. Sometimes her hair would disappear and change colors. It was really weird. And it hasn't been happening on patch 8 thus far. Tidied up and improved some cinematic animations for characters of different heights if you kiss during the evil ending. And fixed the voice over getting cut prematurely for Githyanki and Drow characters entering the Shadow Curse lands for the first time. Writing. Fix the duplicated dialogue option, the wrong version of another dialogue option appearing in Minthara's main party dialogue. Multiplayer. Fix a crash in clients and when a local host attempts to start split screen. Fix a bug preventing you from logging back into your Larian account after losing internet. Fix a bug preventing from the host from inviting a client suspended to the multiplayer lobby. Would get a please wait message. Fix an issue causing random session timeouts and disconnects for multiplayer. And fix a loop on PS5 that keep taking you back to the PS Plus upgrade screen if you try to join a lobby without permissions. All nice changes. Multiplayer was having a few bugs here and there. Nice to see these all sorted out because I've gotten a lot of comments regarding it. Into the crashes and blockers. Fix a crash when trying to start a new game from a lobby multiple times. Fix several crashes related to UI. Balancing a trade offer. Crashes when starting a custom or honor mode. Preventing a crash that would loading an invalid save game. fix a potential crash when leveling up. When trying to load a save game, crash on split screen when trying to cast a projectile spell on a very distant target, which is nice because the new Shadow Magic Sorcerer gets a distance spell for free on their teleport. Fix a crash when trying to drop items on the ground. Fix a bug where you get stuck in the map when creating a map marker and teleporting in quick succession. Fix a crash on startup on Xbox when there's a corrupted save file in the system, which, yeah, if you use crossplay, that could happen. Like myself, it happens often. I play on PS5 though. Fix a crash that would occur when loading into another region. Fix a potential crash and dropping items of clothing from a trader straight into your equipment slots. Fix a potential crash with drop and dragging items. I actually had this happen quite a bit on my playthrough, especially with mods. Fix a crash when right-clicking an empty equipment slot. Fix a crash when loading a modded save game with mods disabled. Fix a crash when switching between keyboard and mouse controller on the character creation, which I had happen a lot. Fix a crash that would occur whenever the game is reloading the UI. Disable the smooth split screen animations when DLSS was enabled, which in fact, not smooth. Fix a rare and random crash related materials and another UI related crash. Fix a potential soft lock related to the HUD remaining on the screen heads up display when loading into a save game made right at the start of a cinematic. Fix a crash related to the rewards UI after finishing dialogue, so if you got quest rewards. Fix a potential crash for multiplayer client when the host accepts the client's request to join a game and then immediately enters the photo mode. Fix a crash when taking custom avatars out of Wither's wardrobes in multiplayer. Fix a potential crash on PS5 when the game is left idle. Fix a potential crash when switching between keyboard and mouse while the map UI on controller. There's a lot of issues with switching between keyboard and mouse to controller. It lags still. I noticed that. I was testing that last night. Still laggy, but hey, it no longer crashing on a lot of these things. Fix a crash when browsing the quest journal on controller, as well as trying to spawn an item in while a region was loading. Fix a crash related to summons and a crash related to tooltips. So they actually fixed a lot of crashes there. So crash be gone. Combat imbalance across acts. The potent spellcasting here, we also have quite a ways to go here. So the potent spellcasting passive now affects bursting Sinew and Toll the Dead. Fix the Owlbear's Rage, clearing when it's hit instead of the last intended duration. Fixed the Owlbear Rage, losing its temporary hit points. Updated Storm's Fury to deal lightning damage is intended, not thunder. That's actually kind of funny because the Storm's Fury, it still has the thunder icon, but it does lightning damage equal to your sorcery level whenever you get hit with a melee attack and push the attacker away. So that is actually really nice that it's now lightning damage to thunder, even though it has a thunder image. The absolute consumption condition no longer stacks. Fix the Icy Cloud, form via Wall of Ice, dealing 5d6 instead of 10d6, so literally doubling the damage of Wall of Ice, making Wall of Ice much more powerful now. I love Wall of Ice. Odaluk's Freezing Spear is a little better, but this is huge. Fix the Slayer default attack being a Relentless Sludge instead of Slay. Ghosts and Gas should no longer cause paralysis, be able to paralyze drow characters. Updated Wild Strike so it can work with the War Priest extra attack. That's actually a huge update. So druids that multi-class into the War Cleric can now use the War Cleric's extra attack. Massive change. The Fierce Perilous Strike's Illithid power can now only target at allies as specified in the tooltip. So yeah, you used to be able to kind of cheese this. Some perilous stakes there. Invest a creature with the power to heals when it attacks, but makes it vulnerable to all damage types. So this is no longer being able to apply it on anyone, but it's only able to be targeted allies. So that's a nice little change there that they made. In addition, this fixed the displace condition of pairing on characters who didn't take fall damage. Warden of Vitality can now be upcast with no additional benefit. Flying Ghoul's Devour attack can now correctly target those that are affected by Eye Bite Asleep. The teleport position of mobile floors can now be used on creatures killed with the initial attack. So that's nice. Previously, the Sword Bard would not be able to teleport if you took out a target with it. Healing Vapors. This one actually breaks my heart. Healing Vapors no longer immediately makes creatures wet, in addition to creating a water surface. So my usual gimmick, I love once you get let's say you just played a bard, they can get magical secrets, conjure elemental that you can create a water myrmidon, do healing vapors, making targets wet. And whenever they're wet, they take double damage from cold. So you can also take the Cone of Cold and deal double damage with it. No longer can you do this. My heart is broken. It's okay. Freedom of movement now correctly preserved the haunted approach. Tavern Brawler works with wild shape and honor mode again. Woohoo! Making druid better. The Tiger's Bloodlust will no longer target items. Specified more correctly whether wild shape, owlbear, Dilophosaurus, or other panther attacks are magical or non-magical, depending on the type of druid that you are. Fixed the bugs causing the upcast aversion of Grasping Vine to cost an action instead of bonus action, because the Grasping Vine is normally a bonus action. If you upcast it, became an action, not normal. The Forbidden Knowledge passive now works with wisdom skill checks and wisdom saving throws as intended. Updated Mind Sanctuary and Grease to not target people through walls. or items through walls. Fix Harper Sky when having strength-based stats, which isn't appropriate for dex-based build. The Undead Harper and Shadow Curse lands, looking like Harper Skywind's identical twin. Nothing to see here. Move along. Fix some of the creatures summoned at higher levels, missing the hide action. Fix the evasive footwork, only working on melee attacks. Now it works with many melee attacks. So yeah, unarmed as well. Fix an NPC, infinite NPC spawn, despawn loop in combat if all party members are invisible at the end of combat. Fix area-based spells like Lightning Bolt and Sunbeam not working on the red caps and the Blushing Mermaid. Fix the wild shape rules for Myrmidons to merge the Myrmidons proficiencies with the characters, which is nice, so that if you have weapon proficiencies, they now do too. Fix an animation causing the Way of the Shadow Monks to be able to apply damage rolls of Shadow Psych twice, which is very, very powerful. Glyph of Warding now correctly works with items like those granted from Spellsparkler, Morning Frost, and Winter's Crutches. So you can actually apply Encrusted with Frost using the Winter's Crutches when using the Glyph of Warding Cold, or Spellsparkler, or Morning Frost. That's actually huge because I love the Morning Frost staff. Fix issues for the Uncanny Dodge. Now it'll only trigger correctly, and it will no longer trigger multiple times per round, and rogues can no longer somehow still use it if they're incapacitated. It's kind of funny. All Wild Heart Rages now get bonus damage to offhand melee attacks as intended. Wild Heart Rages should now also deal the additional improved damage at level 9. And updated War Magic, make sure it works with extra attack if you trigger War Magic during an extra attack. And Shadow Blade, granted by the Shadow Blade ring, no longer requires concentration, which is actually a huge change because Shadow Blade is such a cool spell to use. You can also make a permanent spell blade. Now into Act 1 in Honor Mode. The Papa Owlbear will now correctly get Owlbear's Rage when the Mama Owlbear, her cub, dies. The Susser anti-magic field will now prevent you from casting spells like a shield via reaction. It's kind of funny because it stops you from doing any spells. Now it works properly. Balthazar can now cast shield in tactician mode. Gave the Shadow Curse Shambling Mound some Bifidobacteria-rich yogurt to regulate its digestive juices. The condition now makes the target vulnerable to bludgeoning damage as advertised. The Tactician mode and Honor mode, Malith Thorn will now use his multi-attack at 70% health instead of 40. In Tactician mode, increase the spell power of Karnus' Sanctuary spell from 4 to 5. Fix the bug relating to fleeing from combat with Ketheric. You now have to leave Moonrise Towers region to successfully flee. Bump the debuff of Spider Windle's Skepticism from -4 to -6. And fix Sistera's summons not entering combat. Into Act 3. In the Knights of the Shield combat, the Game Master no longer reinforcements after the portals are closed. While in Slayer form, Orin's immutable form passive no longer applies twice. Surprising Orin in the Temple of Baal will no longer cause the boon of Baal to take its turn at the same time as her. Gortash's Manifestations of Tyranny have now an appropriate unarmed attack. Fix the Black Gauntlets, being able to target creatures on the Sanctuary with Phantasmal Killer. Gortash was over-enthusiastically saying Tyrant's Binding, so we made him less eager when other actions would make more sense. You'd be using those over and over. Fix the bug causing Gortash to react with the Invoke the Black Hand every time he gets damaged. And some gameplay fixes. There's actually a lot. The Cross Axe. Reminded NPCs it's okay to kill the unconscious party after they commit a crime. Fix a bug preventing the left bumper on controller during dialogue, which would open the action radio menu in the background, make it seem like you're stuck in dialogue or trade after. Fix the bug causing alchemy recipes to not unlock when you pick up the ingredients from a container. The Summon Us item is no longer tradable. Fix Jhannyl's gloves, not doing what they say on the tin. Now they make the wearer cast lesser restoration to clear negative effects. I mentioned that earlier, so that's nice to see it again. Fix the instances of the party not being able to load into another region with no clear reason. Greater invisibility stealth checks now get progressively harder in Honor mode. I always thought that was the case. Greater invisibility is a rough spell sometimes. Prevented fast travel, like going from camp to via the hotbar while moving on platforms like the Cable Car by Rosie Morn, which would cause your character to plummet to their death in the interim. Fix in its potential soft lock when using a melee attack on something in the environment that's too high to reach, like a wall or turret, which would block your move until the action was interrupted. Fix an issue causing attacks of opportunity to not be visible on max, so those little arrows when you move away. Fix a reflected damage knocking out the player characters when non-lethal damage is not toggled on. So that's actually kind of nice. Yeah, huge. Fix an issue where you couldn't use sneak attacks again until your next turn if the enemy before you in the initiative was killed. Interesting, so I didn't know that would happen. Clients should now be able to join multiplayer session when the host is snoring away during a long rest, or as long as there's a free avatar. Looting many items at once is now 15 times faster. The game is no longer lock up. This one's a huge for me, especially using mods that add in a bunch of items and taking them from the tutorial chest. So that's actually very, very massive. Fix the screen turning black for several long seconds on a multiplayer when dialogue was interrupted by a player's action. You can no longer long rest while in the astral plane after meeting the Emperor. This led the portal back to the material plane, sometimes disappearing when you end your long rest. A couple of chests no longer unlock things as though they're keys. The Everburning Blade will no longer consume weapon coatings that doesn't apply to it anyways, because it already has the 1d4 damage. You now actually have a shovel in your inventory to start digging with it. So yeah, that's a small change there. You can now dash with actions and bonus actions with ranger companions. Fixing another, that's actually a huge change too. Fix another altogether now, trade exploit. There's another one coming, I can guarantee it. This one lets you take items from traders by moving them into a bag in their inventory to a corpse in your inventory. No more packing dead squirrels with goods. I'm sure there's going to be another. I actually found another one that I haven't patched out. It's not really an exploit per se, but I'll be posting a video of that shortly. The purple worm gullet now has an in-world label. Fix shield, granted by the amulet of Harper's, not react to magic missile or reducing its damage to 0. Fix some of the lithid powers becoming unusable after you've been polymorphed. Fix some of the sentient amulets lines not appearing, although the audio is playing just fine. Sentient amulet is a really fun item. It's good for monks. Fix the escape key closing the container when it was open instead of the one you're fixing a Traverse traveler's chest remaining open when you leave camp while it's open. Fix the data mismatch error appearing on the launcher when it shouldn't. Fix some lighting bugs on split screen, depending on how the lighting was. Fix an issue where local player would drop into the game, the lighting would fade shortly. Prevented movement from being consumed when you enter turn-based mode on controller. Fix the split screen bug where clouds wouldn't show up for player 2. Fix Lathander's light, resurrecting characters that shouldn't have been resurrected. Added a check for when you suspend the game to buy the deluxe version from Xbox Store, and it detects without having to restart the game. Fix environmental fading system, make the walls fade out so you don't see through them, for instance, not working properly. So yeah, if you were to if we're to just go, we can actually, you can see through this wall. You see that there now that they have it fixed properly here. When playing on split screen, if the screen is merged and one player moves to a different terrain level, it would cause the ground to fade and be invisible for one player, making it hard to navigate. For split screen, a lot of issues and fixes here. Fix a bug where hurling a healing potion as a rogue, which is presumably an attempt to heal the target, would trigger sneak attacks, sometimes killing the target. That's too funny. Fix a potential bug causing class names and dialogue option to be replaced with rare. Fix a bug causing targets of seeming spell to disappear or appear naked. Fix the gloves of Battle Mage's power net correctly, giving you Arcane Acuity, which is huge. This is actually probably the biggest one for items, because the glove of the Battle Mage's power gives you Arcane Acuity. Previously, it didn't. Arcane Acuity will give you better spell save DC and better spell attack rolls, making your spells land more likely. This is actually making this item one of the best items for spellcasters now. Previously, it didn't work. Fix an issue in a particular corridor and the crash would cause the camera to turn black. Fix an issue with NPCs. I guess this is Act 1 here. Fix an issue with NPCs' neutrality on the not allowed to start a game, causing characters sometimes turn hostile. Alfira will now join in on your performance on the Deluxe Edition songs. Fix a bug while interacting with the ceremonial battle axe would cause the Guardian of Faith at a Rosymorn Monastery to initiate combat with you. Fix a chasm in the cave below the Apothecary's cellar, which you couldn't shove NPCs down. Fix the bug causing fighters appear unarmed when starting a new game. Fix the drop tail for Dareth Bone Cloak so she doesn't conveniently sell you the Tin Mask spores and the Tongue of Manus, and you need to help Omalum investigate the Parasite quest line. Act 2, you now have to deal with a healed Ketheric and Co. if you long rest during the Assault on Moonrise. The passage of time heals all. You can no longer use silence to keep the protective dome over Last Light from collapsing if Shadowheart kills the Night Song. That's actually a wild change as well. You should no longer get stuck in combat on the roof of the Moonrise Towers if there's no enemies left. Wild-shaped druids are no longer instantly arrested by the Army of the Absolute while following the road to Baldur's Gate from the Shadow-Cursed lands. And into Act 3, those who own the digital deluxe version of the game will now find we have fixed Kiam Goda's Killat drum to not be playing deluxe edition songs like the other hand drums. Fix an issue with Shadowheart's parents that would cause them to sometimes turn hostile when they shouldn't. Fix some fallback countermeasures from the combat atop the Netherbrain in case of modded subclasses. I, again, love that they have patches dedicated to updating subclass and class mods. Fix the bug when killing hostile NPCs, and Worms Rock when non-lethal attacks be too confusion. Steel Watchers can no longer get drunk. Perfect with the Drunken Master Monk coming to the game. Fix newly spawned Flaming Fist, sometimes spamming with just the name Fist. Fix the missing screen fade when transitioning to Upper City on the split screen. Fix the flow issue in the epilogue saying my home is with Gale to Jaheira, even if you were never in a relationship with him. Kind of funny. The flow and scripting, so there's a lot of fixes here. Fix a bug when ignoring Gale as Magic Mirror camp will lead to double hanging around in the morning. I've actually had this, so if you have two, you'd have two Gales. One of them would be like his like astral clone. I'll just go over the main ones here because there's actually a lot of flow and scripting changes. One of them here, Jhannyl no longer trades items at camp, although she's a merchant still in the party. This has led to strange interactions at camp. If you traded with her, you could get the items back by just taking from her inventory. Also fix an issue with Shadowheart versus Lae'zel fight, where the defeated character could still survive the night and would hang around without being able to join the party. It's kind of funny. I've never seen that happen, but fix a dialogue flow, asking Shadowheart about the fight with Lae'zel, and she would make her talk about Astarion. Now she probably will talk about Lae'zel. Fix an issue where some of Shadowheart's incurable wound flare-ups would block later flare-ups, blocking off some later game content. You should no longer need to interact with a Night Song and Isabel at the end of Act 2 to get to gather your allies' ability, which is for the final fight in the game. So fix a bug when you killed Gek and then use Glut's animating spores to resurrect him and then dismiss Glut. Both the spores serving Gek and Glut would become hostile to you. I actually heard of this happening to a few people, so it's nice they fixed that. Also fix multiple Oath of Vengeance dialogue options not appearing in Act 1 dialogues. This is actually quite massive, as I'm a huge fan of the Oath of Vengeance. Also fix a bug allowing Glut to travel outside the Underdark if you use a waypoint from within camp. Back to your cave, Glut. Lae'zel will no longer name drop Ketheric before he's ever mentioned if you speak to her after meeting Voss at camp. I had that happen before. It was kind of weird, so it's nice they fixed that. Fixed a dialogue option specific to sorcerers in conversations with Dolly thrice, causing the Moon Lantern to not work. As someone that plays sorcerers, this is a nice change. And the Moon Lantern crafted at Moonrise Towers will now protect you from the Shadow Curse as intended. Minthara will now continue to want to speak to you after you tell her to wait, so you don't end up losing Minthara as easily. Minthara and Hulse will now consistently choose to remain in the Shadow Curse lands if you load into another region. Fixed His Majesty and Thaniel sometimes becoming hostile under the wrong circumstances. Act 3, fix Companion Shadowheart not interjecting with Shar-related lines in the endgame dialogue. If you're playing as Karlach, you'll no longer miraculously come back to the Elf Song after burning out or going to Avernus after defeating the other brain when you have multiple romance partners. There's a lot of people that use those kind of mods, so it's a nice change there they took in consideration. Fix the bug causing you to get stuck at the Elf Song camp, and that's the camp that I'm actually in right here. I got asked if this is a mod. No, it's actually in the game itself. Fix a flow issue where if you're playing as Gale and you didn't become the God of Ambition, you could still find yourself looking and acting pretty godlike in the epilogue. Fix the Emperor thinking you didn't have all the nether stones if one of them's at a camp chest. I've seen that happen to some people. When talking to Jahara about her right of the timeless body, you can tell her that your race lived longer than hers, regardless of facts or logic. And this now only applies to your race does canonically live longer, like an actual elf. Halsin is older than Jahara. Just a little fun fact there. Some people don't know. Kind of funny, but elves live longer than half-elves who live longer than humans. Some fixes regarding modding here now. So fix the mod manager not being accessible after disconnecting. Made overall improvements to the mod verification window to improve user experience. Fix the next previous mod button allowed you to cycle through the empty mod details page with third-party mods. Updated the search filter to ensure accuracy. Fix mod thumbnails sometimes not showing up with the mod load order of the mod manager. Fix the bug in the mod manager where loading a mod via the browser and then going into the mod details page wouldn't let you uninstall it. Fix a file system error showing up and requiring you to close and reopen the game. Fix various issues related to mod thumbnails like pixelated images or inconsistencies. The memory used widget should now accurately be on PlayStation 5 when uninstalling a mod, so it doesn't keep showing that you have them installed as far as how much memory you're using. Fix a bug causing some mods to get stuck loading at 25%. This one happened to me a lot. And enabled a mod in the mod detail window now give you visual feedback that its dependencies have also been enabled. So if you were to use, let's say, Better Hotbar 2 and it had imp UI as a dependency, it no longer will, but it would now tell you that imp UI was turned on. Whenever you log into mod.io, you'll automatically be subscribed to all your current mods. Also fix a bug where the UI wouldn't update from installed to subscribe when appropriate. Fix a bug letting you access the mod manager on split screen if one of the players doesn't have correct permissions. Also, a little change to the modding abilities. You can now enable all mods at once. There's going to be a trigger right at the top of the modding window to be able to enable every single mod all at once, which is amazing. The Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit got some huge things, so enabled editing of existing levels for deploying templates, items, characters, and triggers, add override. So I mentioned that previously. Add an option to reuse the base game shaders when creating materials. Add limited support for importing existing mods, which is actually amazing. So bringing over Nexus mods to the mod.io. And added a translated string key editor. You can now create edit strings in your own mods and view translated strings in dev mod for reference. So this means you can add text into mods. As someone that's been playing around with the modding toolkit, this is cool. Added a label to show when the material editor was in read-only mod. Added localization for certain fields in the tag editor. So there's actually a lot of changes to the modding toolkit. This may not be relevant to you unless you're a mod creator, which you probably have read through this. So it just made things easier to mod with now. So performance and options. The game will now remember changes made to the audio settings after you hit the reset button. Improve the performance of voice chat during loading scenes on console. When you agree to reset tutorial pop-ups in Character Creator, the tutorial pop-up settings will also get re-enabled. Fixed instances of save game error 544 on PlayStation 5 when you have long multi-byte avatar and save game names. The save game name length is now limited according to the length of the avatar character's name. Fix the restore default button in difficulty settings, not restore whenever you're already in gameplay. Added texture quality options to the videos option. Previously, the texture quality option, this now controls the texture of all terrain. Changing the terrain texture quality doesn't require a game restart for the changes applied. The texture quality can also be modified on DirectX 11, where previously texture files will always be loaded at the highest resolution. Removed outdated God rays from the videos option was now effectively covered by fog quality. So if you change the fog quality, it'll now be the God rays. So a bunch of just little issues and problems that were fixed related to performance now updated. Same as the UI. There's actually been a lot of changes to the UI. I don't need to go over all of it because just little things like wording, error messages that would pop up. So yeah, this is great. There's probably so much stuff here that's pretty basic. Like the ballast armor now correctly displays the correct aura 3 meters when it previously used to say 2, I believe. And tooltips, again, similar to the UI, and icons and portraits. Pretty much any little changes may not be something you notice, but there's a lot of them here. So yeah, this is nice to see just some overall fixes to this. So like fix low resolution textures in the Flaming Fist outfits. Tighten hue was better around the chest. We're pretty sure you could tighten it himself. Added fix female Dragonborn rogues missing the belt from their starter outfits. So yeah, there's a lot of little changes to making. So this one here, this is the big one, I guess, out of all of it. Adjusted the Dark Justiciar's half plate for female characters when warned without underwear underneath, was letting the nips peek through. So I previously mentioned this change. So yeah, there's a lot of little changes to this in animations. So things that are just little that you may not notice. You could read through this if you'd like. Again, it will be in the description. So I don't want to read through every little thing here because some of these are so minute that, you know, it's not worth me reading over. They're not going to impact the game too much. But yeah, there's a lot of little ones here that just makes some tiny little changes. No longer pops mid-sentence when he turns around. Like, yeah, there's a lot of little things that they fixed here, which, again, if you really want to, you could read through all of this. But yeah, it's just little tiny bugs and fixes that may not have applied to everybody. But you can see here, it was a lot of different patch notes and things that I covered in this video. This was a massive patch, and I'm so happy that Larian Studios has got to be one of the best developers of all time for all the work that they put into Baldur's Gate 3 and all of these patches. Some of the previous, this is even the biggest patch. Patch 3 had over 1,000 fixes in it. This one probably has close to 1,000 as well, but it had even more words on their patch notes. So the final patch, they will be doing little updates if there's issues that still pop up. They're still working to fix bugs and such. So this may not be the final like hot fix per se, but this is the final patch with unique game content in it. A big shout out to Larian for putting together one of the best games of all time and the continued support that they had for this game. It's been a blast to play through Baldur's Gate 3, and I can't wait to see all the new memories that people make with the photo mode and the new changes that are coming to modding. So yeah, let me know your favorite change that you saw come through Baldur's Gate 3 in the comments below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them also in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.